Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I have a pleasure to have Dr. Mallory Gessner. She's a director of pharmacy at one of our Houston greater area. And today's is one of our first sessions to start out having candid conversations about different career in pharmacy. And she's a young practitioner who has ascended to this role very early on. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk with her and just get her insights and have her share some insight with you and just really have a very organic conversations that will hopefully benefit you. So thank you for joining, and definitely follow and subscribe to my channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So can you briefly introduce yourself and just talk about your role?
Sure, thanks for having me, Anne. So I'm currently the director of pharmacy at a hospital in the Houston area. I graduated from the University of Houston College of Pharmacy in 2011, and then I pursued the PGY1, PGY2 MS Pharmacy Administration residency at the Michael E. DeBakey VA Medical Center. I completed that with the Houston program in 2013, and then immediately after graduation, I was lucky to get a clinical manager role at the hospital that I'm currently at. And over the years, I took on more responsibilities, expanded outside my clinical manager role, and didn't make that like a limitation on what I felt like I was able to do at the hospital. And so when my director decided to move back to California, I could as easily as possible transition into the director of pharmacy role and not be tied down to any sort of area of pharmacy. So that's the quick summary.
Thank you, that's good. For those that don't know about us, she was actually my senior PGY2 residence when I was about to start my residency program at the VA. So we're from the same program, but she's 2 years, is it 2 years?
Yes.
2 years. Yeah, so she finished the 2 years program before me and then went on and do a kind of like a private hospital because we were both at the VA, so both governmental. So can you kind of briefly go over some advice you would have for those, because you're probably talking to those who mainly students or trainees are interested in pursue administration but may not want to commit to maybe a year or 2 year program. So what would be your advice?
Well, you're going to have to get that experience somewhere else. So I'd really suggest finding other ways to get leadership roles, volunteering for projects, or when you come up with an idea, you be the one that sees it to completion and just showing that you have those leadership capabilities through that type of project. And then also looking at your professional organizations on how you can develop your leadership roles. Learning how to lead people that don't report to you is a really good trait to have. Certain things are easier when people report to you if you have to convince them to do something. At times, it's a lot harder to convince people to change their practice when they don't report to you, when you're not the one basically signing their paychecks. So that's a really good skill to learn through organizations or just leading your coworkers by being like a little L leader rather than somebody with a title that's a leader. And then as you get more skills in those types of situations, your supervisors or people that want to hire you are going to see that. They'll see your abilities and notice that you're just a natural leader and want to take you on to help you be a bigger leader with a title if that's what you want to get to.
So how do you even get interested in administration? Because most students think management is not as sexy and, compared to like clinical. So how did you even get started with management administration?
I just have a knack for leadership positions. I really like to lead and serve by leading and helping others that might not be able to speak in front of a group of people, speak for them and really help expand what pharmacists and pharmacy technicians can do. So I have found a passion in looking at taking care of patients in more of a global perspective rather than an individual perspective, because I did get into pharmacy initially because I wanted to take care of patients. So I've had to redistribute that need and want. I understand that in this type of role, I'm taking care of my employees and making sure that they have a great place to work at my place of employment. And also, I find little ways to help direct people around the hospital. I walk them places so I get that face-to-face interaction. And then just reminding myself that when I take a new heparin protocol through PNT, that we're making care safer for the thousands of patients that we take care of each year, or taking a drug that's really expensive off of formulary by we're helping those patients not have outrageous medical bills when they get discharged.
So impacting not just one patient at a time, because as a clinician, you are working with one-on-one versus as a manager or director of pharmacy, you're working with a few selected folks, not direct patient care, but the impact that you make is beyond one-to-one. It could be 10, could be thousands, depends on how big your facility would be.
And then I also get to mentor the pharmacists and technicians that take care of those patients one-on-one. So helping those people grow in their roles and discussing how to phrase things or how to approach things, or the latest clinical trial I read or something like that is fun to see how they take it and run with it as well.
So for trainees, example as pharmacy student on their 4th year or even PGO1 resident, what are some things they can do right now to explore administration and even explore management if that's their career interest, or even just, put their dabbing on that arena?
Yeah. I love to take people for tours around the hospital, and when we go on tours, I end up talking about what I do every day, or we sit down and talk over coffee about what I do every day, because honestly, every single day is very different, just depending on what initiatives are going on, what state board changes have happened, do I need to hire some more people, so do I have a bunch of interviews going on, just finding the different things to discuss, and I think really finding a mentor at somewhere that you live near can really help you figure out if their day-to-day or week-to-week sounds like something you'd be interested in.
Mm-hmm. And I think nowadays most schools also offer management rotations. More on the elective side, so that's something you're interested in, or even trying to gain what do managers and directors do. That would be a good exposure, because that will also be actually a very good experience, so you can actually get projects and potentially some publication. So for those that are thinking about or even have a mere interest in leadership and taking on just in terms of managing folks, managing people, I think that the elective rotation is great. In addition to the suggestions that Mallory said as shadowing, if you can find them at conferences or meetings, asking them for their emails and then just follow up with say, hey, can I chat with you on the phone for 20 minutes, or even set up like a coffee break for 30 minutes, just to kind of pick their brain. And I think those are all really good viable options.
I heard of some, I think TSHP now has like a leadership challenge, don't they?
Yes.
And so you can even compete in like a leadership challenge, or build a business plan or something like that. So those are great ways to get exposure as well.
Yes, and that kind of lead to my next question is, what's your typical day? You kind of mentioned a little bit of it, but what does the director of pharmacy do?
Well, honestly, every day can be very different, from finding somebody diverting and then calling all the appropriate regulatory bodies that go along with that, and gathering. We have a big multidisciplinary team at my hospital, so we get everybody together and discuss what our evidence is and where we want to take it next as a group. So that basically can take up the whole day. Or I'm interviewing for employees, which is one of my favorite things, honestly. I love hiring new people. Or I'm mentoring a student. Maybe a student is coming with me, and I have medical staff meetings I go to talk about drug shortages or new protocols that the pharmacy is implementing. Or every once in a while I hop in the IV room to help out in the IV room, make some IVs if necessary, or I'm in the pharmacy checking crash card kits or Pyxis pull. So, because it really helps your staff feel like you understand their positions at least a little bit by helping out, and especially during the busy times when they feel swamped, so they can really see like you're supporting them and caring for them when you can. To be honest, there is a lot of emails in management. That's just probably one of the easiest ways to communicate with a large group of people very quickly, especially if it doesn't have to be a meeting. Nobody likes meetings. And also in management, there's lots of meetings. But learning how to keep the meetings as short as possible and on topic is a very hard skill and a very good skill to have. Like my controlled substance meetings, I book them for an hour, but honestly, they really take 20 to 30 minutes. And since my CEO, CFO, COO, and additional O's are in the room, they really appreciate any minutes that I can give back to them while leading those kinds of meetings. So making sure you can stay on topic and keep others on topic, that's a skill I'm still trying to learn, to pull people back to what the meeting's really about. What else do I do? I do a lot of talking with my employees. You might think that a manager job is really about like project management and implementing things, and while that is a huge component of the position, and getting new software is justified as needed for state board compliance or ensuring that the pharmacy runs smoothly, and I really enjoy implementing those kinds of things, really bonding with your employees, making sure that you care about them, and understanding what's going on a little bit with their home life, so that you can truly understand them as a person and find their value and their strengths, and then finding people that offset their weaknesses. So
yeah,
that's kind of the most challenging things that you have to just learn on the job. I'm not really sure what kind of training program teaches you those things, but just over time you get used to them.
Yes, and being able to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and be able to surround yourself with individuals that the strengths that you don't have. So there are many tools out there that you can start looking into, kind of looking at something similar like DISC, which tells you communication skills, or Strengths Finder, it tells you your top 5 strengths. Like for me is learner, positivity. So it kind of gives you the strengths that you have, and then between that you can find others that kind of complement you, because a director can't do it all, right? Nope. And I really like the point that Mallory made about time management, regardless of at work or at live. And I think there are just going to be a lot of demands, and having work-life integration is huge. And as a director of pharmacy, you have many bosses, and being able to answer to them effectively without compromising your personal life. One thing that you mentioned I thought was really good is emails and meetings. And management, I think most folks have this assumptions that, managers and directors go to meetings, but what comes out of it, right? So when we look at when I look at my calendar, on an average week, I'll probably go to about 20 meetings, which is about 20 hours. That's almost a part-time job, and then trying to follow on items after that. So it's very crucial in terms of prioritizing your task projects, and also trying to make time for bonding with the staff too. And I really like how that you got into the IV room and work with your staff. So how often do you staff versus really doing the administration duties?
I try to do a little bit of tubing medications, checking medications every day, rather than doing a whole shift, because for me, I'll get really behind on projects if I staff a whole shift. And honestly, I am much slower at all staffing responsibilities than my staff pharmacists, especially verifying orders. That's just not a skill that I'm very good at. So when I'm helping them out, I know what areas of staffing in central or talking on the floors that I'm better at, and so if we're short a person or something like that, I'll ask them to focus on the areas that they're really good at, and then I'll take over for the other pieces, so we can kind of divide and conquer. So honestly, probably 5 to 10% of my day is probably tubing or troubleshooting or talking on the phone in Central, not my own phone calls, but just if the phone rings and I answer it, that kind of stuff.
And it shows, I started a new job recently, and I think for the staff, it really shows that you willing to be there with them, be in the sideline, and really help them from that standpoint. There's really no, there's no task that's big enough, right? So anything can help, like even taking a phone call from the nurse means a lot, or tubing, like I would deliver your medications when our technicians are tied with other things. So it goes a long way, and like sometimes for me, I actually even go in the weekends and work half day. I might not do like operational, I help to verify some orders, but like I would do some admin duties, but then I would sit with them where their workstation's at, so I kind of chat with them too. So I think that helps to create the rapport with them. What are some major projects, responsibilities that you feel, and you kind of mentioned some of these already, that differentiate you versus your manager?
The controlled substance responsibilities, honestly. Like I'm the pharmacist in charge for the hospital, so all sorts of regulatory things land on top of me. I do delegate certain ones, and then I follow up to make sure that things are done. But certain things I just have to do myself. To make sure, since I'm PIC, I need to make sure they get done, like submitting DEA 106s or checking to make sure everything. I get a monthly report of the C2s and C3 through 5s that we've ordered from Bergen, who's my distributor, and I double check to make sure all of everything that we ordered made it into the vault to be the second check on my main receiving person. And then really the justifying of how we staff in the pharmacy. So like our metrics to have enough hours to take care of our patients, that's something that falls on me to make sure that I discuss with the hospital administration every year the budget that we'll have for our employee hours. And then justifying our pharmacy budget. That is kind of shared between me and the clinical manager, so she'll tell the story of our top 10 high-cost drugs, but just the overall drug budget and making sure that that stays manageable does land on me. And then justifying big purchases. So we purchased dosage a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. And being able to go into administration and sell them on a software that's going to cost several $1,000s every single month takes some skill, I just would say, especially when you're going into their weekly meeting and you've got to keep it short because they've got a bunch of other things to talk about. So if I remember correctly, I think I got it justified in about 5 minutes of talking. So that comes with just practice of giving presentations and knowing what administrators want to know about whatever you're trying to sell them.
So with that, what are some top, maybe like 5 skills that you want to continue to hone, as well as giving others who are watching these videos on some skills if they're interested in administrations that they should start developing or nurturing to be a better leader?
Working on your elevator speeches, very important. Being able to talk to people and teach them about something in less than 30 seconds. It's a good skill to have, no matter what type of pharmacist you are, either counseling patients at community pharmacy or giving a doc advice on an antibiotic or something like that. Mm-hmm. Being able to do that in an elevator speech is very important. Giving others feedback is always fun, and a big piece of that is knowing how they communicate. So learning how other people communicate and adjusting your communication style to them rather than communicating with others with how you like to be communicated with is a big deal. So there's certain people that if you walk up to them without saying good morning and you just start into your spiel of whatever you need or whatever you've got to work on that day, they're going to get really upset because then they don't feel valued as a person. So you have to know who that person is. But there's the other person on the other side of the room that don't tell them about your weekend. Don't tell them what your kids are doing. They just want to get the work done, and just tell them what they need to know. So you have to be able to change it between those things. And there's definitely great shades of gray in between those two people. But just knowing what type of person you're talking to, and who needs a hug before you start a business, and who you shouldn't touch, that kind of stuff. Being able to write short emails to the point, that is a skill. And also coming up with email subjects that I don't have to even read your email to know what the email's about. I shouldn't have to open your email to know what it's about. Sorry, now you're doing some of my pet peeves.
These
but
are good.
personally, I'm still working on the feedback piece. And let me see. Other things for leaders. That's all I can think of right now.
Okay. How about professional involvement? Like, what are your involvement right now in the just professional pharmacy world?
Currently in the pharmacy world, I am on the manager section for TSHP I'm just a member in that committee. And I'm also currently the chair of the U of H Dean's Advisory Council for the College of Pharmacy. I just accepted that role, so
congratulations.
I haven't done anything with it yet. I'm excited to chair our meetings over this next year with Dean Pritchard. It'll be fun. And but previously I was president of Gulf Coast Society of Health System Pharmacists and secretary at one point as well, recording secretary. And then a bunch of things in pharmacy school too, but we don't have to go on that list since I've graduated now. It's been 7 years now. Weird.
Time flies. Yes, so as you can see, Mallory is super involved, and we also have opportunities to work at our local Gulf Coast chapter. I think that's kind of the important point too, is I know in pharmacy school, most of us are involved in one way or another because our membership are somewhat built in, or it's just easy because it's close proximity. But usually...
Free food when you go to meetings.
Oh yeah, that too, free food when you go to meetings. There's also if you're interested in pursuing residency, it kind of boosts your CV and resume. Usually we see a sharp decline in students' involvement in professional organizations right after their P4 year. And as you see both of us, I think there's a critical component of staying involved and being involved, because that's how you really build your network and really build in the relationships. Because oftentimes when you graduate, you're gonna work and you really only know your coworkers, but from that standpoint, your network is not as expansive compared to if you're staying involved in either local chapter or state chapter or a national chapter. So whatever, because I know time is the essence, so being able to pick and choose. But I would say, and I'll get off my soapbox, but be involved and be engaged in whatever that you decide to do, and not just let yourself coast by having a job and having a family, because I think there's definitely a lot of value added when you are professionally involved. With that, what other advice do you have for other students or residents, or even pharmacists that are currently working who are interested in getting more engaged with the profession?
I think more than half of being involved in organizations is just showing up. So find a piece of pharmacy that you think either needs more attention to, like Anne has a passion for women in leadership. So with Gulf Coast, she chaired different events to bring women leaders together so we can all talk and discuss how we're all different, but also how we're all very similar in the struggles that we share, and honestly men probably deal with a lot of the same issues too, so we didn't exclude them. They were invited as well.
Yes.
So just finding something that you think, somebody needs to do this, and I know you've had that thought at some point in your life, whether it's pharmacy or outside of pharmacy, and just deciding, I'm going to be the person that does this. Maybe you don't know how, so maybe you find how somebody else is doing it outside of pharmacy and see how you can make it in pharmacy, like these videos that Anne's making.
Yes, well, the goal is to help and inspire each and every one of you watching there, and hopefully you will have a bigger, better idea than what I have right now. But I think this is a way for us to connect with you, as well as a way for us to share our thoughts and insights. Interesting that you mentioned about mentor. How do you find a mentor, and what advice do you have for folks watching the video to find their own mentor?
Good question. I kind of just latched on to Dr. Richard Cadle at TSHP back when I was a student, because I could tell the passion that he had for his residents, and I knew I wanted to do residency with him. He did pass away. Has it been 2 years already, Anne?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. But so he recently did pass away, but I'm through the Houston program, I have a lot of other mentors that I have acquired with my professional path of having Dr. Cadle as a mentor. So I have Divya Varkey, who is one of the Houston program professors at U of H. And honestly, we didn't talk that much when I was in residency. We've honestly talked a lot more after residency. So I appreciate having her to be able to bounce things off of. And also at work, I call up the other directors of pharmacy in my company all the time just to bounce questions. And sometimes I want to answer right away. So I basically just cold call the directors until one of them answers the phone, and then I talk to them. And I do different people. Well, I have favorites, of course, but if my couple favorites don't answer, then I start calling the other ones that I haven't talked to in a little while. So they can also be mentors. And then a lot of ways is through professional societies. So with my membership in Gulf Coast and TSHP, getting to talk to people at those meetings and making relationships there. We do a lot of activities nowadays not in person, just as a society. So I think going to professional social events, even if you don't even talk about pharmacy, which if you get a bunch of pharmacists together, we always end up talking about some sort of pharmacy thing, whatever the latest drug shortages or whatever. So I think just showing up is a great way to find a mentor.
I can't agree more. Yes. And I think networking, so if you heard a phrase networking or no working, so being able to, I think the best time to network is when you have a job, because when you don't have a job, you get really frantic and trying to find different opportunities. When you have expansive networks, you're really able to, and also build on your strengths. Whenever something happened, you will be able to move to the next or transition to the next job a little bit easier. What I will also recommend students to is build or start having LinkedIn. Facebook and other Instagram are great, but they're more personal. If you want a professional type of image or account, or electronic account, I would say LinkedIn is really the way to go. If you don't have one, I would recommend to start that today. It's fairly easy to set up and it's very intuitive. And when you go to social events, live networking events, or even CEs throughout the state or local chapters, you can connect with folks on LinkedIn, because oftentimes students may feel hesitant to connect with a director of pharmacy on Facebook and vice versa. So I think on LinkedIn it's just like a safe arena that people can connect professionally. And I also create a video about a month ago regarding some networking tips, because I think sometimes it's intimidating for students or even trainees to go up to a practitioner or someone who are in practice and chat with them. So I created that video, so make sure you guys check that out. As we're closing, are there any thoughts or advice that you would give to others that want to pursue administration in terms of especially with residency coming up and prepping? Like, what are some 3 things you would tell the trainees?
If you want to be a manager or director quickly, there's no faster way to get to it than through the administrative residency. It's also a great way for you to learn a lot of different skills very quickly. It is a lot of work, but I wouldn't change a thing. I'm really appreciative of my time at the VA and the skills that it gave me and how it just really set me up for success as a director. Just trying not to say no to things, which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people tell you. You've got to learn how to say no, which is something I do need to learn how to do. But
you've been saying that for a couple of years now.
I know. I'm getting better. But as a student, you're not going to see as many things or be exposed to as many things, or as a resident as well, if you don't just say yes and go try something, or try to lead a new project, or decide to do the strategic plan for your pharmacy department. And another thing, my last item, don't underestimate the value of a thank you note. From my training at my hospital, as I now write them to my staff. So the more thank you notes you write, the more they're gonna feel appreciated. And the big piece of it is actually mailing it to their home if possible, because then they open it up in front of their family and get to show it off to them, because who doesn't like fun mail rather than like bills and ads? So I think the more you can do that, it also helps you build gratitude, so that you yourself feel thankful for everything that others have helped you with, or what you have in your life, because we have a lot of negativity in this world. So the more happiness you can put into your own life, the better.
Wow, thank you. I cannot agree more than definitely, and I will start and continue to practice on thank you note. Like on our system, we can do it electronically, which is always easier to do, but writing it and mailing it are it's just harder, but that's what you're supposed to do as you. And I think it's something about writing an actual handwritten letters. It shows more commitment and time devoted to that versus an email. So that's something I need to work on. To piggyback on that, one thing I would say is, what pharmacy school doesn't teach you, I would say, is the people skills and the finance. And in administration, or regardless of where you go, clinical, community, industry, managed care, you name it, I think these two skills are highly coveted, yet not really being taught in pharmacy school well. And building that interpersonal relationships are so crucial, regardless if you're a director of pharmacy or managers, or even when you're a clinician. It really makes or break your day, basically, if you don't have that interpersonal skills in building that relationship, because people make or break your day. Like that's the pretty much it, right? So in terms of finance, of course, some schools do it better than others, but for me, I would say I do audiobooks. I would read up on it, and budgeting is something that I'm learning. It's not my strength, but I think finding a director of pharmacy who's willing to help also works. And then even as if you're like, well, I'm just going to be a staff pharmacist, well, even having that knowledge will help you to be a better staff pharmacist or better clinician, because in the end, it helps to know the numbers and the finance and how decisions sometimes are being made because of finance, even at the hospital level. So I think those two skills are highly, I would say, survival skills in the pharmacy world or beyond. And I would suggest one way is honing into the finance. Like I said, there are self-studies that you can do or courses, but the interpersonal skills is really just get out there, networking, getting involved with organizations, and being able to build relationships that way. With that, I think we're gonna close our interview with Dr. Mallory Gessner. And for those of you who have more questions, please feel free to add your questions down in the comment sections, and I'll reply to them. And then I will also have my LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me as well as Dr. Gessner if you have any other questions. Anything else before we close?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.